I generally try and get, I don't even try, but I generally get around 7 to 8 hours. It's not as consistent because the older you get, the smaller, I don't know if it's your small bladder or your large prostate or whatever it is. I got to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night every single night. I can't sleep through the night without having to go to the bathroom.
Is it yellow or white?
It's both, depending on what I was drinking that day. So for the most part, because I drink a lot too, for the most part, it's pale yellow, or it's not bright white. It's not clear white. I've had that when I was in high school, but I don't know. So our topic's not pee or sleep or water today. It is picking teams. And welcome to another episode of Competing for Christ. Thank you, Luke, for correcting me on that last podcast where I used the wrong...
you said with preposition?
Preposition, yeah. I did say with. Don't even know the name of my own podcast.
It's okay. We all make mistakes.
I'm Dwayne, the Coach Smith. Next to me is my main man...
Kyle, the Big K Smith.
Big K. So... looking forward to another episode, in episode 3. We're cruising right along. So anything big happened to you this week?
This week?
Yeah, anything?
I don't want to go into too much details, but... Oh, wait. Something did big happen this week. Well, I had 2 interviews for grad schools.
Oh, nice. And they went well?
They both went well. Very well. I'll find out which institution I get placed in, or what institution wants to accept me in their program in mid-February.
Okay. Well, we'll be looking forward to that. I tell you, I did send a Snapchat to the family. For those who don't know, well, we've talked about Luke, your twin brother, and I don't know if we've mentioned your youngest brother, Chad, but or the middle brother, Scott, probably. But Scott's on the spectrum, and he has, for some reason, like his sleep schedule right now is just off. So he's up all night, and there'll be times. This last time I did a Snapchat recording because I woke up at like 4 a.m, and he was up. He was downstairs, just as loud as possibly can be.
Yeah, what was he saying?
I don't think he was saying anything.
He's just repeating his mantras.
He was just like, and then he kept saying, I can't even remember what it was, but it was like,
you pull it up.
Go back to sleep, Scott. So that's one of the things I got to work on, getting his sleep schedule back. But sleep is important, right?
Most important.
Most important?
Yeah, I think so.
More important than drinking water?
In terms of, water is the most important because literally the reason why water is the most important, not the only reason, but because literally your body is 66% to 70% water, and you just need. You need it to. This is how I view water. Water, at least from an athletic perspective, there's a point in my career where I was drinking and I don't know if this is good or bad or not, but I was drinking a gallon, 1.75 gallons a day of water. I woke up, 2 pints, and then I went to breakfast, 2 pints, and then in between breakfast and lunch, 2 pints, and then when I went to lunch, 2 pints, and then in between lunch and dinner, 2 pints. At dinner, 2 pints. Bed, 2 more pints. Done. That's I just had that system.
Yeah.
There was only
Why 2 pints? That's a liter, right? 1 liter.
The only reason, because my bottle was 32 ounces.
Oh, okay.
And
gotcha.
so I just had
I'm with you now.
So a quarter gallon.
Yeah.
That's 32 ounces, and so that was my med drink.
So you're pee white all the time?
All the time. And I felt good. I felt great because this is how I view it. This is how I viewed water. Water is I saw my body as a machine. And if you want to make a machine run well, you put oil in the system. If you want your body to run well, put water in your system. And you'll feel amazing. Just drink a quarter gallon of water or just a pint in the morning, and your whole day, I promise you guys, it will just feel so much better. But talking about sleep, the reason why I think sleep is so important, because in my opinion, and there's a lot of probably studies that back this up, if you were talking about recovery, sleep is the best thing for recovery.
Okay. Yeah. Now, how much sleep did you try and get?
I went to every day, at least when I was in college, every day I went to bed at 10 o'clock without fail for like 6 months straight. And
I woke up at,
depending on when I had to work, I had to wake up at 6. But most of the time I try to wake up at 7. I wanted to at least get 8 hours of sleep. And not every time I could get the full 8 hours, but I made sure I was in my bed, no phone in a different room, and I was just sleeping, just my best of sleep. 8 hours of just pure rest, dedicated just to recovering my body.
Yeah. Did you have to set an alarm, or did you wake up automatically?
For work, I did. I woke up automatically for when it came to 7 o'clock. Honestly, I woke up automatically for work too, but I would never want to take the chance that I set an alarm.
Yeah.
But yeah, there'd be times I would tell myself I would not get out of bed. Don't go on my phone, no nothing. I would be in my bed for I wake up at 5:30. I would wait till 7 o'clock.
But you wouldn't know it was 5:30.
I had an alarm, an alarm clock.
Okay.
I didn't set it, but I had a clock that I could look at.
I see.
And I just waited an hour and a half, just alone with me and my thoughts, thinking about my day, what I'm going to do, and just all I just thinking to myself was just rest.
Yeah. I think rest is important, so that's why I got to get him on a sleep schedule. And I generally try and get, I don't even try, but I generally get around 7 to 8 hours. It's not as consistent because the older you get, the smaller, I don't know if it's your small bladder or your large prostate or whatever it is. I got to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night every single night. I can't sleep through the night without having to go to the bathroom.
Is it yellow or white?
It's both, depending on what I was drinking that day. So for the most part, because I drink a lot too, for the most part, it's pale yellow, or it's not bright white. It's not clear white. I've had that when I was in high school, but I don't know. So our topic's not pee or sleep or water today. It is picking teams.
Got it.
Picking teams. So I was talking to your brother, Luke, and then I don't know how that conversation came up, but we just talked about picking teams. I told Luke, I said, hey, that's going to be our next topic. We're going to talk about picking teams.
Okay.
So, yeah. In general, and then I shot you an article. You read that article?
I read
it. It's Russ Finkelstein, something like that. Finkelstein. And because I was just thinking, does being picked? I was thinking about being picked first and being picked last, and how much of that has an influence on your psyche and into the future. Like you have said. I've heard you say that, everything matters. It's like every detail, everything has an effect on your life currently and for the future. Like,
and not just my life, but other people's lives.
It shapes you. Yeah, I'm saying in general. Mm-hmm. For everybody, decisions that they make, things that happen to them, whatever, nothing's insignificant. And so my question to myself was, well, those people who are getting picked last, or those people who are always getting picked first, how does that affect them in the future? So I looked up that's what I looked up, and I found that article, which is kind of interesting. Some things I agreed with, some things I didn't, but we can talk about that. What do you remember about your middle school years or high school years, like when you were, on the soccer team, or when you were in middle school PE class? Things that just pop off of your mind as far as picking teams. Do you remember were you one that got picked first pretty much all the time, or were you a captain generally, or do you know of people who got picked last, or just any thoughts?
Well,
when you were in middle school, like, I don't know who did you have, Coach Grant, or?
Coach Grant was my middle school coach.
Yeah. PE teacher. Did he set, okay, you guys are captains, you guys pick teams, or did he?
So I think, generally speaking, I don't remember but normally if it came to sports like soccer or basketball, generally I was the first one picked in my class when it came to those two sports. Just because I was, and I don't think I was always captain. I think Coach Grant would just assign captain some days and they'll pick. But generally speaking, whoever was captain, I'd be number one or number two is me or Luke, and at least when it came to those two sports. And so yeah, I do. So that's kind of like how it was for me. Now when I was a captain, what I wanted to do is, because I know, and I think I told this a little bit with my academics and everything like this. I know what it feels like to be counted out on something just because, people, your peers or might think you don't have what it takes to perform well or do well on this task at hand. In the case of school, like group projects, in the case of sports or gym class, it was the case of sports and sports teams. And I hated that feeling, and I knew what I was capable of. And for me, in my head, I was thinking, like, all I want to do is give other kids an opportunity to show them what they got. And even if I know they might not do all that great, I just know how much, just having someone who is, say, good at a sport and well liked among, at least in this athletic realm, I know how much that could help them and just their own psyche, And so this is my one of my ways of just showing my love to other people, And that's kind of how I was reflecting on when you asked that question.
I did the same. When I was like a captain on the soccer team or whatever, and we would pick teams, I would generally, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about last week as far as one of the pressures of a coach is to win. So even and there's a desire to win. So even as a captain in a PE class, you want your team to win. So you are generally picking in a way that you can win, but you also, or I would also have this thing that I would say, like, I can win even if I pick so-and-so or so-and-so that generally get picked towards the bottom. And so I would always like try and look out for them and like pick them just so every once in a while, not all the time, but every once in a while, so they would feel, special or what have you. And that article talked a little bit about that, where Russ was talking about he'd always got picked last, but at one time he got picked, or he was chosen to be a captain, and he picked all the people that generally get picked last, I think is what he said. And then he kind of used it as a little revenge. He said something in the article about, like, so those people always get picked first. They get a little taste of what it feels like to get picked last. Yeah. I doubt that that's what happened, because they already know that they're better. Like they already have an internal understanding that I'm better than you guys who you're picking or what have you. So I just thought, well, that's silly.
Me too. Because it's like, I was like, and this is what I was thinking about this Bible project. They have this. One of my favorite YouTube clips they have that they sent out is on justice, and they talk about how oftentimes the oppressed becomes the oppressor. Give them the power, give them the chance. And it's like, why would you, like, you literally became the very thing like that you hated,
Right.
And but all that to say, I think not like nothing good came out of it either. I think it's, it does I think means a lot to it means a lot to me just to be able to do something like that too, just to give the little guy a chance, or not even a chance, nor just to be seen. It's like, I see you and I know how this affects you, just so you know, like, I'm picking you, right? Despite I don't care, I care more about you than me winning this game, or this whatever we're doing. And that's kind of what that action demonstrates.
And again, I think that's what we talked about last week as far as the priorities of a coach. It's do you weigh winning or development? And I do think there's an emotional proponent to that. So There's development through winning. There's also development through, there's an emotional component to it. So as a coach, this is what I did. There was a few things that I did to make sure, just to make sure that the kids are also developing emotionally and not having someone picked last all the time. So sometimes I would just pick the teams. And so I'd have the different color pennies or whatever, and I would just go around and pass them out. And I would try and make, you always want even teams so it's competitive. But I would sometimes take the pennies, like we have the blues versus the reds or whatever, or in some of the games we'd have 3 or 4 teams, and I would go and I'd give the penny to someone who is generally picked last first. Like, I'm picking you first. They don't know that. They just know that I'm on this yellow team or I'm on the blue team or whatever. But there is something when they're like seeing everybody getting their penny and they're the last one to get a penny. Yeah. Then that's something emotionally whatever. So I would do that. Sometimes I would take turns. So sometimes I'd have the best start picking team. Sometimes I'd have someone in the middle pick a team. Sometimes I'd have someone generally who are less skilled or whatever picking the team. So I would rotate it. So it wasn't always all these same 3 people or 4 people are always the ones that are the captains and picking the teams. So I would do that. And you didn't have to. I think in that article, Russ was saying like he was chosen to be a captain to pick the teams. And that for him, it showed that the PE teacher valued him as a leader or showed him that he was a leader or something like that in the article. But the leadership is going to come out naturally in the game. Yeah. Even though you're the captain.
I agree.
It doesn't really matter. Whoever's the leader on the team, it's going to come out.
Alpha's alpha. No matter what. Titles don't change the dynamic,
Yeah. Just because you are, picked first or the title's there doesn't mean that that's the way it's going to be.
Like for me, this is me just thinking back to my own high school, even college experiences. I remember like junior year, so when we were in soccer with Coach Rose and everything like that, there was like 3 senior captains and 1 junior captain. Like that's kind of how the things went all through high school. And then when it came my junior year, I was always thinking like, who's going to be the junior captain? It's probably going to be me because I was the only sophomore that started and played a lot of time. And so I was like, I was just dreaming what captainship is going to be like. And when junior came on, there's like, we're not going to have a junior captain this year, only senior captains. Oh. I was like, oh dang. Yeah, he was like, and I took that as a slight. And because I was just like, does he not think I'm capable of leading a team? Not leading, but just as a leader. But then I think from that I learned it's like I don't have to have a captain's badge to be a leader on the team, and I think that's a lesson I learned through that experience. Fast forward to even college, I did pretty well at Grace. A lot of records, very had a good teammates. I was just the oldest, one of the older guys on the team, and people just looked up to me naturally. But I was never asked to be. I never was asked to be or received like a captain's badge ever in my college running career, at least at Grace or at Cincinnati either, but a college running career. And at first that bothered me when I was like a sophomore. But my junior and senior, it didn't bother me as much because, you don't have to be a captain.
Labeled
a captain to be a leader on the team.
Right.
People, if you're worthy to be looked up to, people are going to look up to you, and like want to follow you, and just to add to what you're saying, I completely agree.
Yeah, I think also in the article he talked about things that he'd learned through getting picked last. In the beginning, because not always did he get picked last. But one of the things he talked about was that charisma or popularity can generally trump over
ability.
And I wouldn't say that that's the case for, like, if you know someone's the best. Have you seen that commercial where it's like a bunch of little elementary school kids and they're picking teams, and Charles Barkley is also one of them. Mm-hmm. And whatever the commercial is, it's like it's an easiest decision as like picking Charles Barkley to be on your team. But they pick Charles Barkley, and he's like, "Oh yes,
yeah,
the first one picked."
I'll take Barkley.
Yes, I still got it. I told her she picked me first.
Yep, even easier than that.
But I think that the popularity and charisma doesn't always trump ability necessarily. Mm-hmm. But if you are, I guess, let's say you're the last five, and you guys are all the same ability, I think that the popularity and the charisma will trump it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Or even if you're like in the top five, you know, I can any of these people, but I'm going to pick the one with a little bit more charisma, popularity, or as a personal friend or whatever. So, I mean, just goes to show that character probably matters just as much and in all areas of your life. Character does matter in all areas, not just in all areas of your life. So if you are later going on a job interview or whatever, and they've got applicants that are pretty similar in ability, they're going to pick the one with a little bit more charisma, you know, or someone who would be a good teammate.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think
there's more to a team than just gathering like the best players.
Yeah.
Where's it going? There was something I just recently. Or just if you like Moneyball, where I was watching Moneyball, like there's a.
Oh yeah, right.
Was it Oakland A's?
Yeah, Oakland A's. Yeah.
They didn't have the best
Billy
players,
Bean,
but they had the best team. You know, and they had a. And part of the reason what made them so good is maybe that's not a good example.
It is actually. It is a good example. So it wasn't just in that case. It was statistics, but they made, instead of just having the best player for your team, it's like, well, let's get two or three players that can basically get the same stats as this one player type thing. And I like that movie. When did you watch that?
I watched it a couple times, but I had to from when I got my master's in sports administration.
Okay.
Like, it was one of the assignments we had. One of our assignments we were learning about statistics and everything like that.
Yeah.
And we had just, wrote an article or reviewed it. I don't know. We just wrote a paper in response to the movie we watched.
Yeah, I like that movie. It was pretty good.
Yeah, I liked it too.
So the second thing he talked a little bit about after the charisma is that, well, one of the things is that he also learned to empathize with other people. He knew how it felt to be picked last. So he could spot out or recognize people who were, picked last, and he could empathize with them. And I think that's a good, in any area of life, if you've been through an experience or that you can, relate to someone and be able to help. So this guy's he's like a coach, like a life coach, the guy who wrote the article. So I'm sure when he's, life coaching somebody who maybe have a little bit of depression or a little bit of, just some issues, that he can empathize with them. He's like, yeah, I understand what it's like to be picked last, or like you were saying in the last podcast, as far as the kids on your, like a school project or whatever, and they would like basically disregard. You felt disregarded in the project because they're like just dismissing your thoughts and your ideas and what have you. So you got that underlying experience to be empathetic and be able to encourage someone, like, you can work through this type of thing. So I thought it was another application that
and
could
those
happen.
those moments too, like, and I don't like those like, when people would say those things to me or whatever, treat me that way. But I'm very appreciative of those experiences because they, in turn, I'm pretty sure Russ Finkelstein, and that's you and your own experiences. We all have gone through this some way. It's like not like just because maybe mine wasn't in the realm of sports, but I felt it in other spheres of life, and I'm sure you have too. And I think everyone listening to this has felt that feeling. I think, and no one would choose to have those feelings. Like, it's like I want people to treat me this way or look at me this way. Like, no one wants that, but I'm thankful for those experiences because it helps grant me the ability to see people for where they're at, who are struggling too. And so I'm also thankful for those experiences in that way.
Yeah. Pretty interesting because as I was thinking about this topic, then it just made me think about Jesus picking teams, like the 12 apostles that he picked. And we've talked we've learned in church or things that these apostles were, they got fishermen. They were like low. Some of them were lowly. Not thought of as well educated or what have you, but
you had a tax collector, you had a zealot, you had someone. One of them might have been in that scene too, like someone like a John the Baptist figure.
Yeah.
Like people like the outside of the societies. No one really.
Well, you had Andrew was a fisherman, but he and Philip, they both followed John the Baptist. They were disciples of John the Baptist. So. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
And then they have, and then the fishermen or whatever. But it was an eclectic group.
Yeah,
But I just my thought in my head is, when God is picking teams, He's generally picking
not the people thought of as like the spiritual.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You would have thought that, okay, let me go to the temple, and even in a temple, people like. Nicodemus, or he saw people who would believe in him. So it wasn't like he wasn't
just picking the outcast just for the sake to pick out the outcast. He's just looking people who are willing and ready to receive his invitation to the kingdom.
Right. But he was specific. I do think he did specifically not pick these rabbis. He didn't pick necessarily, and I don't know if you guys watch The Chosen or whatever, but the way they portray it is that he gave the opportunity to Nicodemus, but Nicodemus, couldn't make that leap or what have you. I don't know. That's not biblical, but he still recognized Nicodemus's heart, and he didn't pick him to be an apostle. But basically, what I'm saying, he didn't pick the rabbis or the
Well, my question is, do you think
Pharisees?
Do you think it's because they're Pharisees or because of their hearts? Because I feel like more than anything is their hearts, not their actual. Like, it's not because you're a Pharisee. I'm not going to put you on my team.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say. That Nicodemus had the heart, but he didn't pick him.
Well, he didn't choose Jesus either. At least in The Chosen.
Right.
So it wasn't just like I didn't pick you. Like, I gave you the opportunity.
Yeah.
You just didn't accept my invitation.
Yeah. That's true. And that's the same with the rich young ruler. It'd be like, I'm giving you the opportunity, but this is what you have to do, and he didn't want to do it. So yeah, I see your point there. But anyways, I was just thinking about the Jesus picking teams and what he picks because, also, who he chose to first start his, public ministry, like the woman at the well, someone who was lowly and not thought of and had all these issues or all these problems, or Mary Magdalene who had demons in her. And just the people that he chose were not necessarily the people that everyone else would pick first, or even going in the Old Testament when, he told Samuel, who I want to pick as the next king, and he's going to Jesse's house, and he had all these other older brothers, and he goes to pick out the shepherd, the one in the field, David. So again, it's the heart, and maybe it is the idea of what Russ was talking about, that working on your charisma and your not necessarily popularity, but your charisma, your attitude, your the way you can deal with people, your character, that matters more than, or just as much as, your abilities. Now you can develop those just like you can develop abilities. But do you think it's easier to develop character stuff or easier to develop abilities?
I think from my experience in life, I think it's harder to develop a character than an ability.
Yeah.
Because it's also easier to measure ability than character growth.
Okay.
You have to be, if you're going to be able to witness character growth, you need to have some humility and grace towards that person, and that's not always easy to see, and so that's kind of, but the reason why I think it's easier to grow ability rather than character, because there's so many times in my personal life and my life experiences where you could tell someone not to engage in certain behavior, but if they want to engage in that, people generally do what they want to do, and but whereas you, I don't know where I'm going with this, but I just think it's, from my experience, it's just really hard to like change someone's actual heart, and to be honest, only Jesus can do that.
Yeah.
And it's a slow, I feel it from my experience and just witnessing people's heart. I've witnessed people's heart change, but it's a very slow process. And and when you grow your own personal ability, it's also a slow process. It's very hard work. But I feel like people are more motivated to do that work, and it's not always for the best reasons.
Yeah.
Like I could want to be better, not even just to help my team, but so I could be glorified, and that's just as equally a strong motivational factor, but that's not going to help him become a better human, but he is going to become a better player. And so, yeah, that's kind of like my response.
So you think it's harder to develop character? Is that what you're saying?
I think so.
Yeah, I think I agree with that, because you can. And I think it's important, but everyone can do that. But like in a job or something that you apply for a job, generally you get trained. You can learn the skills and the technique and the whatever to fairly easily. But being able to relate or be a good teammate or be that, you have to go out of your comfort zone, and you have to be able to be empathetic, and you have to be able to see others or seek others' best before your own. That's what you're talking about, the humility part. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. So yeah, picking teams. It's a fun topic.
Yeah, I like this discussion. That was fun.
Yeah. What do you guys think? If you have any thoughts on whether or not you have been picked first or last, or you have stories to tell, share those in the comments. That would be fantastic.
Please, and we would interact with them, and it'll be a fun experience. So make a community,
Yeah, that's right. And Kyle set up an Instagram for us, so if you go to Instagram and look up Competing for Christ.
Competing _for _Christ.
Okay.
I don't think there's an underscore after that. I think it's just that.
Yeah. And follow us on Instagram. So anything else you want to share?
I love you guys.
I love you too. So just always remember that when you are competing, run in such a way that you will win the prize. Peace
Peace out.